Hello, hello, hello. We are live.
Yeah. Let's get it. Welcome to another lovely Beyond the
Hello,
Sum of
hello,
Our Parts.
everybody.
Today, like always, for the second time around, you see Reese's face on here. She's a part of the team now. Give her a round of applause. I don't have
Yay.
my applause button set up as of right now, but I will in the future. All right, we got lovely Jordan as always, looking so nice and
Hello,
beautiful. Like great
hello.
Reese looking so heavenly, majestic. Hello, like a mermaid fresh out of water. You feel me? And
Thank you.
I'm Mark B.
Oh
Teasing like
gosh.
nobody's business. Gotta love it. So today's topic for today is Jordan.
Today we are leaning into navigating the no contact decision. Navigating the no contact decision, healing family bonds and setting boundaries. We're talking about boundaries today, folks. So, with that being said, leaning in with our first question, what does no contact mean to you? And what led you to consider this concept, if you've considered it? So, lean in
Um,
as you will.
Go ahead, Mike. You wanna go
Well, I'm gonna go first. Okay, so no contact, making this decision to lead to no contact. One is for the peace of mind. It's for your peace of mind
Yes.
and your soul. Okay. There's times where we are held by, traditional values of family and this person's done a lot for me. They're just so but at some point in time we just got to realize when they're no longer benefiting to your mental health, your emotional
Mm,
health, it's time to cut the red cord. Now, we're not
mm,
saying that you should be searching for people that are constantly able to give that to you. Nah, but if they're a disruption and not an add-on to your
mm,
piece, the family history and the family dynamic, while you putting your best foot forward and trying to make that work out with them, because I had a situation myself with family that was in that scenario, and it's a I firmly believe having that conversation up front before you decide to cut ties, understanding maybe a third party should also be there too to basically help understand, because people get lost in translations of communicating with each other when the feelings are all pent up and the tensions are high. So it is very important to have that conversation before you decide to say, hey, I'm not messing with you. Now, it's like, now, granted, though, you don't have to, but if they really meant something to you, then you go ahead and you have that
yeah.
question, that conversation. Hey, I'm cutting you off. Nothing against you, but I can love you from a distance, but I can't be. You can't eat it. We can't be in the same space. We can't be in the same room together, type of thing.
Mm,
And it's sad because sometimes it's your brothers, sometimes it's your sister, sometimes it's a family member that you grew up with. Your friend, you know what I mean? Somebody that you know what I mean, you done shed blood with at times and you done came out the same womb together. You know what I mean? So it's like it's hard to make those kind of decisions, but when you do, it's never going to be easy. But there's nothing wrong with doing that and having the understanding that this is not only important for you and your mental health and growth, but it's also important for your future. And then they themselves, they may just be caught up in a journey that isn't in the right same place as you. So they just need to be, set free, let go. I don't know, cut the ripcord. I don't know, kind of thing. That's my take on it.
thank you, Mike. What about you, Reese? What do you feel like no
So
contact means to you?
for me, it was it didn't happen on purpose. I think it was more of a self-preservation reaction to what was going on. It was just a very uh, I went through a very toxic situation with my mom, and it was just to the point I couldn't deal anymore. So for me, it started out as self-preservation. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to continue this cycle. This has to stop. And then I think just after getting some help and talking to a therapist and just trying to understand the whys of it all, I kind of learned what it meant to be no contact, and that it wasn't just me being petty or me being vindictive the way I was made out to be by other family members. It was literally self-preservation. It was me going into fight or flight and trying to protect what sanity I had left. And through therapy, I really focused in and leaned in on breaking a generational curse. I refused to keep perpetuating that same cycle of toxicity and
Right.
just harm onto my kids. You know, it was affecting me, and it's so crazy because I think in our last show we talked a little bit about how like you can be 40, right, and then a certain situation or a certain traumatic event can take you right back to being a little kid. And for me, this was that cycle that kept happening. Every time it would happen, I turned into this 5-year-old little girl, and I just couldn't do it anymore. So um, I did try to kind of have the conversation Mike is referring to, where you say, "Hey, listen, these are my boundaries. This can't happen." Not at the moment I went no contact, but thousands of times leading up to that big break, and just basically begging for there to be some kind of resolve or a change of behavior or setting a boundary. But it was always diminished as being disrespectful because they're the parent and you're
Mm,
the child, and how dare you have a boundary? That's not how that works. I'm the parent, so I'm always right,
right.
and you're the child, so you just have to suck it up and be quiet and yes ma'am, no ma'am, because I'm the parent. And I
Right.
just couldn't do it anymore. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing, Reese. We also have Lisa here. Lisa, can you hear us?
I can hear y'all. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yep, we can hear you, Lisa. Thank you for joining us, Lisa. Today's episode, we are talking about going no contact, navigating the no contact decision. And I just simply asked the question of, what does no contact mean to you personally? And what led you to consider this option or this concept?
Well, I've personally made the decision for my son until he's to the point where he was about 5 or 6, and that's with his biological person. Is the nicest way I can say that. So the revolving door syndrome is something that was consistent with his biological person. Um, the inconsistency was consistent, and as a result, there was only one stipulation in order for you to see Tyson, and that was to be able to be sober at all times. No intoxication whatsoever. Now, everybody has their own things. Whatever you do, that's your personal preference. But when you come to see our gift, he needs to see you at his best. He doesn't need to see
Mm,
you under anything and think that's a normalcy. So, with that being said, that was the only stipulation. And unfortunately, their demons wouldn't allow them to be able to do that. And as a result, it would work for a couple of months, couple of weeks, and then advances at myself would be coming. And then when they had the understanding that it's not a family picture any longer, it's just you need to be here for your son, that ship has sailed. It was, well, I'm not coming around. You've got too many rules. You have too many regulations. I shouldn't have rules when I can be able to see my child. So
mm,
I made the decision for Tyson at the age of 2. And then my dad passed away almost 4 years ago. His father came around and he saw it for himself that the inconsistent behavior was something that he didn't want. So he's never given him the liberty of calling him dad. He's always called him Terry. And the day he was supposed to show up, he didn't show up.
mm,
So we've driven by his house. He's 20 minutes away and we've had the conversation. Do you want to drop by? No, I have nothing to say. You're not
mm,
there. You don't come to my games. You don't drive me to my practices. You don't take me to the things that my mom does. So there's really no conversation we need to have. And I felt like that was the smartest and safest conversation to have with his father. He just doesn't want to receive the information.
mm.
But I
Yeah.
made the decision for him because he couldn't advocate for himself. I felt like the revolving door syndrome was just something that was just not going to be taken as a form of acceptance from the person that also contributed to you being here.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And one of the so rewinding back a little bit for the people who may not be familiar with the term of no contact. Um, no contact is basically making a decision to either reduce or limit completely the contact that you have, communication that you have, the interactions that you have with another person, whether that person is a family member, whether that person is a neighbor, a loved one, whoever this person is, it's you making this decision to cut off or severely limit your communication, your interactions with this other person, right? And so, as everybody else has mentioned, Mike was talking about recognizing that relationships are toxic and making the decision to do what's best for his own physical health and well-being. Reese mentioned that as well. Same thing with Lisa, except in her case, making the decision to do what's best for her child's well-being, because they weren't old enough or mature enough to make that decision on their own. Reese talked about the dynamics with a parent and the unhealthy dynamic of thinking that the parent is always right, regardless of what's happening, regardless of how wrong they may be. Lisa talked about not respecting boundaries, and these are all very common things that happen in relationships. But people don't always make the decision to go no contact. Lisa talked about the yo-yo effect of them coming and going and coming and going and coming and going. And for me, it was very similar situation when I chose to make that decision. There was a person who kept coming and going and coming and going and wasn't respecting boundaries, and it was a very toxic relationship dynamic. And making that decision wasn't an easy one, because I loved and cared about this person just like everybody else, mentioned, minus Lisa, but the other dynamics, loving and caring about this person and still having to make a decision to cut them out of your lives. And so then the next question being like, how has that decision, especially with somebody who is or was a part of your life and you maybe would have wanted them to continue in your life, how has making that decision to go no contact affected your mental, physical, and emotional well-being? Like, what challenges and changes have you experienced, or have you experienced for your child in your case, Lisa?
I didn't see any effects. The effects happened when he made his final return. So a little history is we had been dealing with the revolving door syndrome since Tyson was 18 months, with inconsistent behavior. From 18 months until 2, we didn't see them at all. That's when the relationship had ended after a full 7 years. Then 4 comes along. We don't see him again from 2 to 4. It's more of a birthday situation. He came. He was under the intoxication. He was asked to leave. Then we proceed to age. We don't see him again until Tyson is 6. That's when Dad had passed away. He had lost a brother, so his heartstrings were pulled on. And every time it's come back, it's, oh, he doesn't know me, or you're bad mouthing me, or anything. Why doesn't he want to give me a hug? The only concern I saw was the fact that you're just not a factor. I know that sounds so cliche, but we don't talk about you. We don't bring you up.
Right.
I don't badmouth you. I don't good talk you. I just don't bring you up. We are
At all,
functioning
right.
and doing our everyday lives without you. And that was more of an issue for him. So when he wasn't receiving the accolades that you would for a present father, it bothered him. And then it gave the word I'm looking for is resentment towards the relationship that I have with him. So instead of praising me for everything that I'm doing and trying my best and sacrificing what I sacrificed to give my son the most stable environment, it's, oh, you're a bad mother, you're babying him, you're doing all the things that I was doing wrong in his honest opinion, as opposed to acknowledging the fact that I'm doing this and doing it the best I can with raising a little man, you know what I mean? So it was more on his end. Again, my son has made his own decision in regards to that particular individual, and I am trying to prepare him, because at some point in time, they're going to have an epiphany and he's going to want to come and have a conversation with his child. They may be out and about and things of that sort. And it's going to happen. I need to prepare him for forgiveness. I don't want my son to have that anger and that frustration that could happen when that absent father or absent individual is not there. But that conversation is going to come.
Mm.
Hey, Lisa,
His
do you mind
response
me
is he
asking you
just
a
doesn't have
question on
anything to
this?
do with him.
Can you repeat your question, Reese?
Sure, I'm so sorry. Lisa, do you mind me asking how old your son is?
He will be 10 in April. And we've always talked to Tyson as if he was an adult. No baba, no baby talk. We don't sugarcoat. I think I'm doing it wrong because and personally, I don't hide anything from him. I give him for instance, we're going to the doctor. You're going to get some shots today. Is it going to hurt? Yes. But I want to provide you with that expectation. So you're not, you know what I mean? I feel like if
Yeah,
people were to do that a little bit more as adults and more with children, we wouldn't have some of the issues that we have in regards to communication. Like my
I
son will
agree.
come and tell me about his girlfriend, but don't tell him I told you that. But you know what I mean? Because we have that open communication, he feels comfortable enough because I give him the liberties of telling him the truth. Now, there's
Right.
times that we have to foobar some things just a couple of times, but that's for his best benefit. But I try to be straightforward and let him know that this is going to happen one day. There's nothing that you've done to deserve the lack of absence. My son did have to learn about death at an early age because I apologize. My dad stepped in when he was 18 months and had been there until my son's last breath. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
We have similar stories. My son never met his biological father, and when he became of age, he's always kind of known. But
mhm.
when he became of age, and we told him about it, and I said, "Hey, listen, like, do you want to speak to him? Do you want to reach out? Do you?" He told me, "Nope, I have a dad, and if he ever cared, he would have reached out. He now doesn't want anything to do with him. So it's a similar situation. He's older though. My son's 15 now,
Mhm.
and since he's been 10, every year I ask him every year, so much so consistently every year that this year he asked me to stop asking him.
Wow. I
I think
mean,
that guilt,
it's
as
so
moms, I
hard.
think that guilt eats him,
It does.
right?
I
I don't want to
personally
feel
am
like
the
I took
parent.
anything away from him, but I want him to feel like he has a choice and that it's not going to hurt my feelings if he ever decides he does want to have that conversation. Because as a kid, answers, eventually they're going to want answers.
Right.
I agree. Was it a toxic situation in regards to his decision of not being around there for your son? If I may, I might have missed that.
Oh, girl, yeah, he literally bailed while Raven was still even coming out of hospital. Yeah, that's a whole separate Jerry Springer episode that we could talk about another time. But yeah, that was a
You
whole.
are not the father.
Don't do that.
that
Don't
Thank
was
do
you,
that.
that
Jerry.
was a whole other
Sharon
thing.
has nothing from the peanut gallery.
Yeah,
Does he feel that the decision that you made for him at a young age was something that you did for his benefit? Did he have any
That's a great
animosity or
yes.
question.
anger since he was older?
No, when he got older, and we talked about the whole thing from beginning to end, and I'm very much like you. I'm very much we didn't do baby talk. I don't sugarcoat things. I tell him things as straightforward as I can, as age appropriately as I can.
Mm-hmm.
I try to set very realistic expectations, within reason, and again, keeping his age in mind. And so, when he was 10, we had that. I always said, if when he was old enough to ask, he's old enough to be told the truth, age appropriately.
I
Yeah.
love that.
And so,
I love that.
that's what I did. And then as he got, he would ask a little bit more in depth questions. But 14, I told him the whole story. Again, still
Mm-hmm.
keeping
Age
adult things,
appropriate.
but
Right.
um, yeah, but he understood. And I told him that, regardless, I even told him the things I felt I did wrong, right? Because nobody's perfect in any relationship ending. There's always things.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him that there would never be a situation where I would be hurt if he ever wanted to
Mm-hmm.
reach out or have a conversation, or that, nobody can begrudge his blood or who his father is. And those are choices he has to make. And whether they're now or whether he's 18, like, I will support him no matter what. And so we've consistently had a conversation, but no, he wasn't ever resentful. I think I think he had, when I first told him, he had that same feeling every kid has, but like, why? Like, why, what did I
What did I do?
do that made you leave me?
Right.
But once he understood it had nothing to do with him and all to do with his biological father, and that he's had a dad since day one. So he has somebody who has stepped up, who has been his father consistently since day one. So for him, once that clicked, he literally one day, I think he was 12, asked him like the third time, "Do you want to reach out?" He said, "Mom, I have a dad." It's like,
Mm.
you do, but you never know. Like, and I don't want you to think you have to hide that. I said, "No, I have a
Right.
dad, and I'm fine." And then this year, he asked me not to ask him anymore. He said, if I ever want to, I promise I'll tell you, but I don't care." So I was like, okay.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. I think making that decision for a minor is so much harder than making it for yourself, because not only do you have your own things that you have to weigh in on, but it's also like Lisa had brought up the question of weighing in, is this down the line, is my child going to be grateful that I made this decision, or are they going to resent me? And that's something that no matter how well-intentioned your decision is, you can't control that.
Yeah.
Like, I think that is probably one of the scariest parts of making that decision for a minor that I've heard other people talking about in their conversations. Like,
Mm.
but if I get rid of this person, what if my child wants to? Then they can make that decision then. But just like the both of you said, right now, I'm going to do what's best for my child and my family, and what's healthiest for them. So
I
I
was
respect
terrified.
that. Go ahead.
Sorry. I was terrified that when he got older, he'd hate me. That he would. Yeah, I think that, like I
Hmm.
said, that mom guilt eats at you. Like I thought
Yeah.
he'd. I was terrified that once he finally knew the reasons why and knew the whole story, that he'd be, resentful that he lost all that time, or that he would have wanted that
Right.
relationship, or he would have longed for it. And that ate at me because, again, as somebody who's trying to break generational curses, I didn't want to inflict hurt or trauma onto him. I was thankful that I was honest and that he received it well and he reacted the way he did. But that ate me up for years. For years, it ate me up. I was terrified of that.
Yeah.
I dealt with the same fears. We're just going to use the term narcissist. My narcissist advised me when my son decided to. It's always the child should take the initiative, was his thought process. My child should be calling him. My child should be reaching out to him.
Your
My son should be
child.
reaching out to his grandparents. Now, keep in mind, at 18 months, that was the same thought process and mentality. So I personally dealt with
Same here.
internal struggles, dealing with the when
Wow.
and I can verbatim, when he finds out that you're the reason why I kept him from you, he's gonna hate you. Was what he
Yep.
edged in my brain for so long.
Yeah.
But I was blessed enough to have my dad, but that fear in the back of my mind of, could it be true? What could he possibly say to him that
Right.
maybe he will hate me? Maybe we'll have resentment. We'll have the angry man syndrome. Like, am I doing this right? Did I make the correct decision? Um, and I personally feel like I've gotten the, yes, you have. You've gotten the green light because he's made his own assumptions without me having to tell him. But the fear of hate and, mom, you kept this person from me. And the story has changed. It changed from the beginning. As he gets older, I do age appropriate as well. In the beginning, it was, daddy just is not healthy enough to take care of you, and knew that mommy would be amazing at it. So I went ahead and did it that way. Um, at this point, we're getting to the point, we had the conversation and it just didn't work out, buddy. It just didn't. We just were on two different ships and they sailed in two different directions. Well, mommy, did you do everything you could? And I was honest with him, yes, for a very long time. But then at one point in time, it's just the fear of the unknown, I think, is one of the situations that you deal with in regards to cutting someone out. Now, I personally have not spoken to my brother. That's another situation. Fix your face, Michael. With that being said, I did reach out to him. My son asked me if I could reach out to him. He's looking for that male influence. I haven't talked to my brother in about 4 years since
Sorry
my
about
dad
that.
passed. He was supposed to step up after he had passed, and unfortunately did not. I reached out to my brother, and unfortunately, he's still hanging on to a lot of resentment, anger, frustration. I'm the type of person, all right, we can work through it. Let's just sit down and have a good old cup of coffee or a meal and let's talk about it. And you put out on the table, I'll put out on the table. And unfortunately, he just was not there. So I will continue to, hey, how you doing? Um, but from a distance. Pastor talked about a
Right.
couple weeks ago, you need to keep some people at a wooden spoon length. And sometimes it's your own family you
Yeah.
have to treat that way. The toxicity, I felt
Right.
myself getting angry and frustrated as I'm reading the text messages. I'm going back and forth with my brother. I'm feeling the toxicity that I chose to block out of my life and keep you from a distance. So I knew at that point it's just not for me.
And so in that case, so you guys both gave examples of varying levels of no contact. So Lisa, you were just talking about you still have contact, like he will message you occasionally, you'll reach out occasionally, but it's not like as deep as it should be or it would have been, versus with the father situation there is no contact at all. Y'all are just completely
There is absolutely
boop.
no contact whatsoever. I think if we were in a store, yeah,
Right.
if we were in the store and you saw me, I'm gonna be honest, the petty in me, I'm not speaking. I have nothing to say to you. That's just the petty in me.
Nah, it ain't
Right.
being petty though. It's not being petty. A person with so long not reaching out of their own part of a responsibility. It's like you reaching out, even bothering to say hi. It's like, yo, what's the point of even saying hi? Like, homie, you got something to say, you come say something. Because at the end of the day, we gonna keep it moving. You act. Listen, he chose to act that way. You just matching the energy that's given. Out of
Correct.
sight, out of mind. And if you in sight, you still out of mind, pimp. Until you change that until he himself decides to change that dynamic for himself, he gonna get that treatment, and that's because he brought it upon himself. Ain't nobody forcing nobody to hold hands to somebody who played a part in making a child, but then choosing not to be there and be like, how come he don't hit me up? Do you give him a reason to hit you up? Are you even a
Mm,
part of somebody's life?
Mm,
That's like when you got those friends that's like, oh, they be like, man, you don't hit me up. They want to guilt trip you into not hitting them up. But the phone works both ways, pimp. You know what I'm saying? If your response
That
is, oh, I
part.
don't hit you up, your response is, oh, I don't hit you up. You don't hit me up. But when you don't hit me
Yeah.
up, I don't say nothing to you. I just say, hey, what's up? When you do call, be like, hey, how you doing?
right.
Long time no here. What's up? We just gonna carry it on. But if you out here want to hold grudges because all of a sudden you feel like, oh, I didn't hit you up, that's on you. But that's people.
Mhm.
I think society has
I
gotten to
think
the
when
point where people feel that they are entitled. Unfortunately, the entitlement syndrome is something that is becoming more of a common as opposed to not. To feel entitled that a child of 18 months should reach out to
Yep.
you is astonishing in such a bad way.
I don't even think it's just now. I think that sense of entitlement stretches back to the boomers too, because I've
Yeah,
been no contact with my mother for 6 years, a little over 6 years.
Mhm.
And you know, I had reached out to Mike one day because out of nowhere, New Year's Eve, she reached out. And when I say no contact, I
Mm.
mean no contact. Like,
Oh
don't
yeah.
call, don't talk, don't nothing. The toxicity was just real, and we had one
Mhm.
final blow up, and I couldn't continue that cycle. So she reached out of nowhere. But they all have this sense of entitlement and this playbook, this narcissism playbook that they go by, right? So not only are they entitled to, you're the child, I'm the parent, I'm right, you're wrong, get over it, right? But one of the things she threw at me, which against my better judgment, I should have just not talked to her. But you get those people in your life who are like, but it's your mom, but it's this,
Mhm.
but it's that, and
Mhm.
I let myself get pulled, and I talked to her, but I just got hit with the same, well, it's your fault the kids don't know me. She's talking about my kids. It's your fault this.
oh,
It's your fault that. You took my grandkids away. You did this. That phone works
Mhm.
both ways because I may have
you know
gotten out
what?
one
Mhm.
This
time.
is what I would have did. This is what
Wait,
I would have
you
did
didn't
right here.
reach out one time to say, "Is my grandbabies okay? Can I see them?
Right.
How?" Like, that wasn't a concern then. So it's that
You
entitlement
hit the mute
is
block
it's.
button on them. You hit the mute block button on them like this. You know what
Wait, can I
I'm
ask
saying?
how did you maneuver the no contact with the grandparents? What was did the kids have this grandparents lunch and hey, why are they not, there? Is it the same conversations you had in regards to your oldest son? Like he didn't understand what he did to them.
Right.
And he
Um,
figures that they're older, they should know better.
yeah. When I went no contact with my mom, my son was a little bit older, and he was part of the reason I went no contact with her. So me and my mom have a
Mhm.
very torn history, and
Yeah.
she treats me very differently than say my brother, because we have very different situations.
Okay.
So she then took that out on my son, and for me,
Mm.
that was a boundary because
Right.
in my head, I always chose to believe that me and her could have this past she couldn't get past, or she saw my father in me, so she took it out on me. Um, So I always thought when I had kids, she would make it right with my kids. And in my heart, that made it okay, right? If in my
Right.
heart, if she could do that, all would have been fine with me, right? But you couldn't be a mom. Our past is our past. Be a good grandmother. That's all I
Right.
care about. But she couldn't do that. And once she crossed that boundary and she hurt my son, that was it. That was it. And Craven was old enough to not only be hurt but to cry and to tell me it hurt him. That was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. So he was old enough to understand. My daughter was an infant. So to this day, she doesn't even know my mother is alive, and I've never told her that. But let me show you how funny kids are, right? I navigated that by one. I was blessed enough that her father's parents are probably some of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life, and they are everything. They write Lifetime movies about perfect grandparents should be. And I thank God for that, because when you don't have something, the universe or God brings you exactly what you need in replacement. For my son and my daughter, they are everything. Um, but my son had a hard time with it, and how I had to deal with it was during therapy. My therapist said something to me um, that broke me, but also helped me a lot. She said that when you have a situation that's as toxic as mine was, right, and you're trying to break generational curses, you have to be okay with never getting an apology, never getting recognition, never getting closure. And in order to do that, you have to make a decision within yourself whether that door truly is closed or not. Because if you're going to always leave it cracked open, you're never going to fully heal, right? And so she asked me that. She's like, before we move on, no, there's no right or wrong, but what do you want to do so I know how to help you best deal? And I told her I want that door slammed shut. I refuse to leave it cracked and run the risk of perpetuating that trauma onto my kids. And so the next step was I had to mourn my mom, somebody who's
That
alive. I had to
grief,
mourn
yeah.
them as if they had passed away. And I had to be okay with it. And it wasn't easy. I think having dealt with a grandmother who basically raised me pass, and then having to mourn her, but then mourning somebody who was alive was 1,000 times harder, because you have to know that that person is there, but they're not there, and they're never going to be what you want, and they're never going to be what you need. And you just have to be okay with them just not existing to you anymore. So you mourn, you cry. I literally went through all the stages of grief. It was hard. It was ugly. But I thank God for it, because had she waltzed her little butt in my life like she did this last time and pulled on all my strings, I would have been that same 5-year-old little girl crying again. And she wasn't able to do that to me, which sent her into a whole different narcissistic rage, which is a whole different thing. That same hold and that pain, I don't have it anymore, because I cried it out. I dealt with it. I worked through it. I leaned into it, and I healed from it. And so that she wasn't able to rip that Band-Aid off and hurt me that way anymore.
Yeah. And that the grief aspect of it is very much real. I know my dad has had a similar experience, and I have as well. But for me, I guess I navigate no contact a little bit differently, because I know we've talked about this before. Like I don't believe in throwing people away, but like you all have said, I believe in having healthy boundaries. And so for me, when I navigate no contact, and I also don't match energy. So if you have trash energy, I'm not going to be trash with you. I'm going to keep my energy up here. You can be all the trash that you want, and I'm going to continue to shine. Like that's just how I navigate the world. I'm not going to harm myself trying to be petty like this petty person. But for me, it was not the biggest thing was not pretending like everything is okay. Because when I was in my situation and this person would come and go and come and go and come and go and not respect my boundaries and not have healthy communication and be a toxic part of my life, they would come back like nothing had happened and expect me to do the same thing. And I had to learn for myself, like, how do you find balance? I love you unconditionally, but I also love myself. And so, because of that, I'm putting up this boundary here to say, when you come back, we're going to talk about this thing. And if you don't want to talk about this thing, you're welcome to go again. Good day, sir. I'm not going to fight with you. But also recognizing that you no longer have the same access to me. No, I'm not going to throw you away, but you can stand outside and have this conversation. You don't get to come into the inner sanctuary. You don't get to know my inner workings. You don't get to know how all the things are happening within me that you used to have. And that for
Yep.
me is the no contact aspect of it. Like if for whatever reason I had to go no contact with a parent or a close loved one that was in my life, it wouldn't be just that you're dead completely to me. It would be, yeah, if you want to pop up and have some tabletop conversation, how are you doing today? How's the weather? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you got about 5 minutes and now I'm bored and I'm going to go. So have a good day. That's it. And for some people that will, why even bother with that energy? Because for me, it's recognizing that, yes, people are who they are. And Reese, you said this in the grief process of it, recognizing that this is the way this person is and they are never going to change. It's always going to be this toxic situation. Not necessarily always, but this is the situation that I'm in, this radical sense of acceptance, right? But not just the situation. I'm radically accepting the person. This is who you are for whatever reason. The reason doesn't even matter to me. This is who you are in this moment. I accept you exactly as you are. I see that you cannot meet my expectations. You can't be the person that I need you to be. And I accept you for that. And I still love you, just over there. You just gonna be over there on the outside, right? And being able to say that's okay. But also recognizing for me that people are capable of changing and growing. And so if 90 years from now, that's exaggeration, this person comes back and they've had some crazy life epiphany and they want to come back and tell me all the things that they did wrong, well, if they're blocked and I've thrown them away, they don't get that opportunity. I've missed out on that opportunity. Not to say that it's going to happen, but giving people the chance to grow. My opinion, everybody else doesn't rock like this, but
Yeah.
for me, it's giving people the opportunity to grow and expand, even if that expansion takes 50 years. But then
Let me
that
ask
brings
you.
me, go ahead.
Sorry, that was gonna ask you a question, but go ahead, finish your thought. I'm
No, no,
sorry.
no. Go ahead. Go ahead. I was gonna bring up another question. Go ahead.
You had you set expectations, which led me to something that happened in the conversation with me and my mom, and I've wanted to ask you guys this. Um, she said that part of the reason she felt like our relationship was toxic was that I had expectations of her, and I had no right to have expectations of her. I had no right to have expectations of what a mom should be. Uh, and when I asked her what she meant by expectations, because my mom, English is not her first language, and I know sometimes that's a lot of our problem as she say things. So I was trying to give her grace and the benefit of the doubt. Tell me what you mean by
Right.
expectation.
Right.
And basically, it was, um, things you would expect a mom to do. Like, so if I call you and I say I'm sick, you're my mom. I expect you to be like, "Are you okay?" Have show
Mhm.
concern, empathy, in whatever
Mhm.
way that is, but show some
Mhm.
empathy or concern. That was an expectation that I had no right to have. If my son says, uh, me mom, I'm in soccer and I love soccer and I'm the captain this year. Do you think you can make it to one of my games sometime this season? That's an expectation she feels is unfair. So I told her, I
Mhm.
said, so those aren't expectations to me. Those are bare minimum. Let's just say boundaries, for lack of a better words, right? Like my boundary is that you would respect me, you speak to me with respect the same way you want respect, and that
Right.
you would show some empathy or care for me. Like I don't think that's an expectation. But she had all of these expectations of me as a daughter, right? You have to respect me. It doesn't matter what I say, da 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 da. And when I pointed that out, the clash of the
Mhm.
titans happened because how dare.
Mhm.
But I'm curious what you guys think of, not only in that context, but in the context of any relationship, any dynamic, expectations versus boundaries, right? That what do you think the differentiating thing is there that makes it healthy or unhealthy?
Well, I must say this: when it comes to those expectations and boundaries, to be honest with you, there is no book right or wrong, and it's pretty much based on the individual, you yourself, and those people that want to be a part of your life need to understand like your expectations, your boundary. If they feel like it's too much for them, then ain't nobody forcing them to stay. You can always leave. And that's the thing where a lot of people fail to understand that. Like, if you're not able to give somebody something that they're requesting or requiring to basically be a part of their life or in their presence, then by all means, you don't have to stay. And where Jordan is like, oh, she don't feel like throwing people away. You ain't throwing nobody away. They throwing themselves away. And if
Mm-hmm.
they and it's like when we say the no contact, blocking them and all of that. Listen, you block because you block. If the universe really want me to talk to you and really want you to clear the air, we're gonna meet in public somewhere. That's it. Grocery store,
I
pumping gas, something, whatever it may be. Because at the end of the day, when you say 50, 40 years down the line, 90 years down the line, the universe really wants you to unblock, or universe really wants you to clear the air. There is no, oh, I tried calling you. Nah, we ain't finna talk on the phone. Oh, I tried hitting you up on social media. Nah, we ain't finna hit up on social media.
But see, everybody doesn't communicate the same. For some people, it's easier for them to communicate via text or audio or whatever. So for you to expect, because this goes back to expectations, for you to expect somebody to communicate the way you want them to isn't fair to them.
No, man, you're
I
100%.
don't think it's a. I apologize. I don't think it's a
Oh, go
fair or
ahead.
unfair. I think it's you provided the expectation, and you as
Right?
the adult, as the individual, decide whether or not you want to accommodate or not.
True. If but for me with the blocking, if I were to not block somebody and they were to text me, I have the freedom to choose, no, this isn't enough. We need to meet in person. And I can tell you that via text. And you can make a decision as to how important this is for you versus expecting them to just show up in my life and be ready to have this apology or whatever presented to me. Like for me, it, like I said, it comes back to meeting people where they are and
Right.
understanding that everybody doesn't communicate the same way I do.
No, no
Can
one
I
does.
counter
But
with a
so
question, if
so are
I may?
expectations wrong? Do you think having expectations of a relationship
no,
in
no, they're
in
not
certain
wrong.
aspects are wrong?
I am weird. I will say that. And I do personally. Not that they're wrong or right. Like Lisa said, I don't think it's a wrong or right thing. But for me, I don't believe that. I believe that there's expectations and there's requirements. So for me, if I have an expectation, that leaves room for disappointment because you didn't meet my expectations and now I'm frustrated. Now I'm upset. Now it's harmful to me because of what you did. And I personally don't want to give people that power. I have requirements. If you don't meet my requirements, that just means that you don't have access to whatever this level in my life is. That's just it. I'm not going to fault you. I'm not going to blame you. You just don't have access. The end. It's not my fault.
So
You
so
made a
what I'm
choice.
expressing is not expectations; they're my requirements because
They're
they
your
are my.
requirements.
At the end of the day,
Right.
which is nothing wrong with that, because like I said to you before, and I said to anybody, people are who they are. If they decide to change, they will change, and if not, know who they are, accept them for who they are, and act accordingly. That's just it. Ain't no love lost. Except is that I'm not gonna reach out to you. I'm not gonna go out my way for you. I'm not even gonna make you a thought. But if you hit me up, I'll respond in kind. Hey, listen, if we ain't talking about, if we not having good conversation, good pleasantries, there's no need for us to talk though. All right. So what you got to say? Oh, you're not doing it. Gotta go. You know what I mean? That's just simple. It's plain and simple.
Right.
You hit him with that, like just hit. This is me. This is me. Hey, man, I ain't like. That's it. That's it. Zero time, bro. Zero time. Cause like real talk. Cause it's like I had the same issue with like family. My mom's passed away, and they're always like, oh, how come you don't call and check up on me, bro? My mama died. You her brother. Like, wouldn't you look
Right.
to see if we straight, if we good,
Right. It's a
if,
two-way
if we
street.
need, if we need something? I don't hit you up
Right.
because I ain't got nothing to say to you. I'm good. But said if you invite me over for dinner, I'm gonna show up. I know I ain't finna invite you over for dinner because you don't party like me. So it's okay. I'll link up with you when I link up with you. But at the end of the day, ain't you finna make me guilt trip me into not checking up on you when you
Yeah.
older than me, quote unquote. Like you said, they want you to be the kid. They want you to be the kid when it's know your place as a child, but then have you do everything else X, Y, and Z, and then be like, oh no, your expectations, the term expectations and boundaries is hard for a lot of people to navigate because some people
Hmm.
don't understand what that means for certain people. And communicating those things to people is not wrong in any shape or form. You're just communicating, and it's just like
Right.
it's like watching something on TV, reading a book. Yeah, they're gonna like it or not like it.
Yeah.
It's just that
I,
simple.
I
And
personally feel that those who have narcissistic behaviors, narcissistic people in general, just feel that boundaries, requirements, expectations are putting limitations on what they can get away with you as an
Hmm.
individual. And
Hmm.
they were never shown those boundaries or requirements for what you need to function on a normal basis. I think that's an excuse for them to say, I can't accommodate, I'm not willing to do that, you're asking too much. Um, I think it's a cop out. I think boundaries, requirements, and expectations are required for a normal functioning relationship with whoever you choose to have the relationship
And
with.
that's true. And if they, but at the same point in time, if they themselves know within themselves they're not able to meet those things, that's not a cop out. That's just them letting you know
Right.
this is
It's a
far as they
choice.
gonna get. You
Hmm.
can't expect them to basically run a mile if they're only capable of running 4 meters.
That part right
That's it.
there.
You can't expect them to go to the gym and bench 350 or 195 or 145 when they can only lift the dumbbell at 10 pounds. And that's where they're set. So it's okay. It just means not, hey, I know where you are. You're this
Right.
equipment that stays on this side, and I only
Right.
talk and deal with you in this parameter. That's about it. It ain't no cop out. You just gotta basically be knowing very well in your mind how to place people in certain categories and priorities and prioritize them as that. Because who they are is who they are. We shouldn't make anybody feel any shame for not being able to step up as a parent, not being able to
Right.
step up as an auntie, not being able to step up as a child. Who they are, they realize now at this point. And if they change in the future, great. If you're willing to accept it, even better. If not,
Right.
nothing wrong with you.
Right. Right.
People are gonna be people. You got people that's gonna do a lot. You got people that ain't gonna do a lot. Cool. Like with Reese situation, Mom Dukes is not gonna ask you how you doing, not gonna check up on the grandkids and see how they doing. But she requires for you not to expect that from her. Well, obviously, Mom, that ain't the case. So I know how you are. I'm not gonna call and be like, hey, are you good? And if I do, I'm gonna
Hmm.
call you because I want to. Now, if
Right.
you give me
Right.
grief, just know you're limiting how many times you get a call from me now. At this point, it's there's nothing wrong with people saying, like Lisa said, it's a cop out. It's not a cop out. It's just people understanding their limitations of what they want for you. Because if they feel like what you're telling them to do is too much for them, then hey, that's who they. That's
Yeah.
where you. That's them telling you where you fit on their priority level.
Hmm.
That's them
I'll say
letting you know what they can do, what they will and will not do for you to be in your space and present. All you got to do is two choices: you accept it or you don't. And if you choose not to, it's all good. No love lost. Go do that somewhere else, just not here.
I
That's
think I
just
say cop out from a parent standpoint. As a parent, it is your
no.
Yeah.
It's the
responsibility.
same thing. It's the same thing. It's the same
It
thing
is
because
yours
because we're,
as a
we're
parent.
forcing people.
If you will, as a parent, it is your due diligence to be a parent, to be present, to be there for the child. If that's the case, and you chose to give an expectation or a requirement, and you chose not to meet it, and the parent chose not to meet it, it's a fact that you shouldn't have been a parent. You see what
I
I'm saying?
agree with that last part of it, but I disagree with the thought process to get there. So like for me, some people become parents for all different kinds of reasons.
And
So
some
just
people are forced.
because just because I gave birth to you doesn't mean that I'm prepared or capable of meeting the requirements to be a parent. I can't give you what I don't have. I can't give you what I don't know and I'm not willing to know.
Okay, so I just want to interject real quick because I think what you just said hit a nerve. I would be okay with that. If that was the case, if that was the case, because I wholeheartedly agree with you, you can't expect water from a rock. If it doesn't exist, it just doesn't exist, right? You can't get it. My issue lies with parents like my son's biological father and my
Mm-hmm.
mother who
Mm-hmm.
say they don't have it to give. It's just not in them. It's just not who they are. But then you watch them give it to somebody else. I
But
watched my mom be a storybook mom to my brother, and I watched him be a storybook father to his other kids, short lived, but it was in him long enough to see that he could do it.
right.
Then look us in the face and try to play, you want water from a
It's
rock.
it's not even a trying to play. It's understanding and this goes back to meeting people where they are. And this is not a blame or a shame thing
No, no,
about
no,
you,
we get
but
it.
it's recognizing that and she's being honest, she's just not communicating it effectively. She is not being capable of being a mother for you because there is something about you that reminds her of some ugly part of herself that she is not ready or willing to face. It
And
doesn't mean that she's not a good mother, period, that she can't meet the requirements, period. Just in this situation, in this environment right now, she cannot. And that's not a you issue. That's a her issue and it's going to be a her issue
100%.
until she deals with it.
or she may take it to her grave. But 100%, that's the
Or
reality of it.
doesn't. Yeah.
We're talking about Lisa, talking about when you become a parent, and this is what I posted on Facebook. Men choose who they marry, women choose who they have children with. Have a deep conversation about having kids with somebody and what it looks like, and if y'all are together and if you are not together, because that's the reality. A lot of people are having children with people, and we not having these conversations. We're not covering the bases. What if we separate? How does co-parenting look like? This, that, and the third, or versus because like people will be like, oh well, he made a deposit. Now he has to live with that deposit. At the end of the day, we all write consequences, but this is a different level of consequences. You're affecting another whole human being's life because
Hmm.
you yourself don't want to be unhappy, or you have values or whatever, and you're tossing that expectation onto a child, onto somebody else who's
Yeah.
not even fit to be a parent. They know they're not fit to be a parent. They ain't got no choice in that matter because they're not the one carrying it. They're not the one rocking it out like that. And that is sad because we all know what it takes to bring a child into this world, but we're not having that conversation like, yo, if this goes down, what it gonna look like for us?
Right.
Have that conversation. Because well, it's like, oh, I don't want to ruin the moment, I don't want to ruin the fun. Unfortunately, we're adults. If this conversation ruins the fun, then so be it. But it needs to be done versus assuming that, oh, the child's here. Now you gotta step up for something that, one, you probably never had experience in your life. Two, you was never given the opportunity or be shown what it looks like to have a healthy parental guidance. And so we're having children with people who in that same dynamic and expecting them to be like us. Like, I don't have any kids, but expecting to be like y'all, like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, they're functioning. Some people got it in them, some people don't. We just got to
Right.
understand that, hey, that's who they are. That's their character. That's their flaw. That's their kink
I
in
don't
their
think any
armor.
person has ever had a child and not had the conversation, right? I don't think
Well.
we're jump off situations, but I think I
Mm,
know personally I had the conversation. What were to happen? What would be the rules if we didn't stay together? What would happen if, well, why you got to think negative? Why are you trying to put the bad juju on us? That conversation was had. And what was told to me and what the expectations that were provided, should this ever happen, are something that are not being done completely.
But that goes back to expectations and reality. No one and no one can predict their future, what they're going to be thinking, how they're going to be feeling. I could tell you right now that if I had a kid, I would do X, Y, and Z, and I would feel X, Y, and Z. And then something happened in 5 seconds that completely changes everything I just said. Now, is that valid? Should that be that way? No. But that's the reality of humanity. We are so fickle. We change our minds about as much as we change our underwear. So to think that
um,
any two people can have this conversation and then the baby is born and everything is going to meet the expectations of that conversation, unfortunately, isn't always
it isn't always
realistic.
guaranteed. It isn't
No,
always
you can
guaranteed.
say that to the woman who's been married for 50 years and her husband decides to leave her for whatever reason it may be.
Yeah.
All of
No.
that, all of that comes back to, like I said, all of that comes back to the whole, like, people are who they are. They're gonna show you who they are. Accept them for who they are, act accordingly, and treat them as such. That's just that. Because in this no contact situation, it's like it's like people. I've been in the hospital. I've seen how uh elderly patients are left taking care of their kids, and now they're sick, and their kids are abusing their parents, taking
Mm.
advantage of them, treating them bad, disrespecting them, and it like, shut up, mom, shut up, dad, and
That
it's like,
payback.
yo, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, to be honest with you, that's not healthy. That's not a good relationship.
Right.
And that, bad people do bad shit, man. Sorry for cursing, bad things, but the contact, the no contact, as we were all talking about here, is at the end of the day accepting people for who they are and just move and acting accordingly with it. It's like there's no love lost. Hey, feel bad for them, pray for them, do whatever, but they are who they are.
Mm.
And
I want to
like
be
we
like
said,
Jordan when I
her
grow up.
mom can show her mom can be a great mother to her son, but she can't be a great mother to her daughter because, like Jordan said, something about having a daughter is a trigger for her, and
Mm-hmm.
it's an awful trigger to her that, you know as we're all going through this whole mental health phase and understanding and accepting our demons and all of our trauma in our lives, some people still ain't even ready to scratch that surface.
Yeah.
And so everything the wind blows is a trigger for something.
Yeah.
People are gonna be people who they are, man. Accept them. Once you see something you don't like about them, just know that's their character, man. Run. Just know, distance yourself, act accordingly, and you know what I mean. Have faith in that. Have faith in your decision making and your skill making, because cutting people off is not, in Jordan's case, throwing them away. Nah, it's just like right now you're not what I need, but you're not what I need. You're not what's good for me. You're not what's healthy for me. So, and I love you, but yeah, we can't rock like this.
Yeah.
You can't rock like this. Text me once. Text me every 5 years. How about that? You know what
Well,
I
and
mean?
that's,
We
for
text it.
me, it comes down to understanding what boundaries are. A lot of times we think of boundaries as a way to keep people out, but we were designed to be interconnected. Boundaries are a way to moderate how I'm going to respond to all the people on the outside.
Yeah.
Boundaries aren't to exile people and excommunicate people. Boundaries are to keep me safe and sane. So I'm going to create boundaries that tell me how to respond, not react, how to respond when you're doing whatever craziness you're doing. You can do whatever it is you want. I have no control over you. I'm worried about me. When you do this crazy, I'm going to do this. When you say this crazy, I'm going to do this. You can do whatever you want. I can't control you. And which is, again, why I don't block people. You want to say and do whatever you want? Okay, I'll read your message and delete it. Or I won't read your message and just leave it unread. Or I'll read it and respond. But it gives me the space to choose how I want to navigate each relationship and every dynamic. That's just how I move through the world. And yes, there are some people that are hurtful, and every dynamic, every conversation they have are hurtful. And even then, for me, it's like, okay, I already know what to expect. This has been the pattern. So when your conversation comes up, that's it. And I understand why people block, and I understand why people go no contact, and I understand why all the things happen as they do. Like I said, this is just for me. I recognize that boundaries are for me, not for anybody else.
Yeah. I'm similar to you in the sense that I don't match energies. I don't believe in matching your energy, right? Um, but I will revoke energy. Meaning once you cross that line or once you
Yeah.
have no respect for my boundaries, I eliminate your
Yeah.
access. So I'm not going to go there with you, but I'm also not going to allow you to continue to infiltrate my energy. So, like for
Right.
me, and this is just a me thing, reading that text message, I know my emotion, it'll get me going.
Yeah.
I'm going to respond, but now I'm left sitting with the
Right.
reaction to that and trying to regulate my emotions because you wanted to do something or say something crazy or
Right.
sideways. So rather than put myself through that, for me, I'll just revoke that energy. I'm not going to match your energy. I'm not going to text you back and be petty. I'm not going to go, but you no longer have access to me.
Right.
You no longer have access to get a reaction out of me. You no longer have access to interfere with my peace of mind and with my tranquility. I'm gonna leave you
Yeah.
over there by yourself, and you can just stew in that all over there. And if you ever do want to reach out, like I believe, like Mike said, the universe will figure it out because I'm not going to leave myself exposed for your toxicity to come in and out as you please. I envy you, Jordan. I wish I had that much restraint to be like, yeah, okay. I'll
But
do it. I'll read it. I'll go,
for
yeah, okay. But then
me,
I'm left doing by myself.
like when and this is a growth process because I have not always been like this. I was the block queen. Uh, but but now
Showing
I
up
can
wrong.
honestly say that I am in a space where I recognize that people's craziness 99% of the time has nothing to do with me. And when
Right.
I see the stuff, I'd be like, oh, poor baby. You are so sad and depressed right now. I feel so bad for you. Go on with my life. Do, 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 do. Like, and that for me helps me to navigate it because I've been in experiences. Like, I recently was talking to somebody and it was super stupid. I was talking to this person and they were asking me why I wasn't vegan, completely unrelated to no contact, but why I wasn't vegan, and then proceeded to verbally assault me because I wasn't vegan. And I didn't even say that I wasn't vegan. I said that I don't use the label vegan because I don't believe it. And they're like, well, I don't like stupid animal killers and da 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 da. And literally, as this person is verbally berating me, all I could think was, oh, you're just like a sad little boy throwing rocks in the corner because you're lonely and you need some power. And I am so sorry that you feel that way. Huh. All right, I'm going to go now. And that was it. And that's just how I choose to see people, because I'm not going to waste my energy stressing out over your pettiness or your anger or
Right.
your, it's not worth it to me.
Now you just do this. You
Right?
just go back on it. It's just like,
It's just not worth it.
yeah, that's it. That's it. It's
Well,
like, right.
I am
Hold on, hold
healing.
on.
I'm not healed, so I aspire
Uh,
to get where you are. I'm
no,
working my way
and
there.
like, and the thing is about healing though. It's like, yo, emotional trauma, emotional abuse, and all of those things do play a role. When we talk about healing, the healing process, and people need to understand when the word healing comes, it's not like it's no longer there. It's still gonna
Yeah.
have a scar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The healing process is basically you choosing to know when it is triggering for you to cut it off,
Mhm.
not let that impact your emotions. Like, wow, wait, hold on, you know what? Let
Right,
me just
right.
chill. Let me just chill. I hit you with this. That's it. You know what I mean? That's it. You know, and
And
it's just
for me, that is a tool. I will block you. I would block you until I was in a space where I could talk about you and think about you and not get all emotional. And then, oh, good, I'm good. The
yeah.
block is
I
over
don't even,
because you can
it
do
ain't
whatever you want.
blocking you. I don't block anybody. I just hang out. And if you continue to call me, it's just like, okay, do you want to get blocked? Because I ain't never used it before, but I'm like, hey, matter of fact, it's okay. Let me pull up.
Mm-mm.
And like I said, I've never been into those situations because I'm cutthroat. It's easy, as simple. It's like I'll tell you straight up. Listen, if we ain't talking about growing, ain't no positive conversation.
Mm.
Won't talk to me. I don't care what happened 15 years ago. I don't care whatever you had going on with Mom Dukes or whatever. Bro, listen, that ain't got nothing to do with me. Let's talk about you and me right now. What's up? Are we getting drinks or not?
Yeah.
Are we eating something or not?
Right. What are we doing? Wh-
And then at the end of the day, if
Right.
they still want to hang on there, well, hey, listen, it's a pleasure. I gotta go. Why? Because you're going down a path that I'm not trying to be in. So you
Right.
enjoy. Hit me up when you can. Now, if you choose not to hit me up, that's not throwing you away. That's not blocking you. I just
No,
told you
it's
straight
giving
up.
people the freedom to do whatever they want to do.
I gave you the boundary. I gave you the rules. Like, don't like it's like for me, it's the simplest thing possible. You got people you can invite to a party and they're gonna have fun, and you got people you like, nah, they look like they're gonna sit in the corner, they're gonna be a killjoy. You don't invite those people. It's just that simple. There's people you can tolerate and be like, oh, this is gonna be life, it's gonna be lit. And there's people you're just like, nah, we good. I can text you, I can talk to you every now and again. I can do a lunch or a brunch, but I'm not gonna hang out with you in front of other people in a group and know that this is going to be annoying as hell for me. No, no, there's no point.
Yeah, I get it. So, with that being said, wow, it's time has timed, and we are at the end of it.
Lisa, you did a great job. I
So,
appreciate
fantastic conversation about making the choice to go no contact with our loved ones or people in our lives, because you might not necessarily even love them, but people in our lives. Any last minute thoughts, or like what guidance do you have for listeners who are tottering on the edge of making the decision to go no contact in their lives?
it. It's easier said than done, and you're gonna struggle with it. You're gonna beat yourself up and feel guilty about it. Trust your instincts. They're never gonna steer you wrong. We need to be more confident in trusting our instincts when
Right.
it's basically about self-preservation. Trust your instincts. That's what they're there
Right.
for. And you ain't got and like when I say match energy, just like I'm not meaning like match the energy of the aggression and the disrespect. Just understand you know where they are. Match their energy and kind by just basically not giving into it. Because while they're gonna be pissy and angry and they're gonna be Tasmanian devil want to destroy shit, just ignore them, man. Hit that Bugs Bunny me emoji or get to no. And just like ignore them. There's no need
This
to
is
get
trash.
into that. Yeah, this is trash.
Sorry, guys. I apologize. Sorry. Thought I was on mute. DMX did a TikTok because he did an interview with Noriega, and he's like, "Trust a snake to be a snake. They are going to strike, and that's what their intents are. You've got to trust yourself and the individual to show you who
Mm-hmm.
they are. Do not ignore the red flags, the signs that have been
Mm-hmm.
bestowed upon you for you to make that decision. I think as human beings, we have what I call hope. hope you're going to do right, hope that this
Yep.
opportunity, this chance is going to be the chance that you're going to fix it and change it. And hope is a double-edged sword. So
Yep.
trust those to show you who they are, and the decision will automatically be made for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Um,
Reese.
I would say, trust yourself and trust how you feel. If it doesn't feel right, it's not right, right? And especially when you are trying to break generational curses and you're trying to do better, it's okay to have boundaries and it's okay to put yourself and your family first. Um, and it's okay to cut people off if you need space to heal and
Yeah.
get to a place where you're okay. Um, my situation definitely isn't the ideal situation, but I wouldn't do it any differently. I don't think I could have healed, and I don't think I could have been the mom that I am to my kids, and my kids wouldn't be as well rounded if it didn't happen this way.
Right.
If I were stuck in that cycle. So, I would say just trust yourself, and like Lisa just said, when people show you who they are, you just have to believe them. You
It's
have to
Yes.
believe them.
trash.
You have to place them in your life accordingly, whether that's no contact, whether that's limited contact, whether it's, you know, loving you from 5 yards away, whatever it is, you can still love somebody without being entangled with them and being intertwined in them.
Truth. You guys all said some really wonderful things, and it brings me to my final thought. Instead of looking at potential, because I know for me that has been my pattern in the past. People doing all the craziness, and I'm like, oh, but they got potential. Oh, but they got potential. No, no, we don't look at potential. We look at patterns,
No, 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 no,
right?
no.
If there is a pattern of a lack of respect, a lack of safety, a lack of trust, a lack of effort, a lack of growth, your potential is just that. I'm looking at the pattern. If you're not meeting with me where I am, if you are detrimental to my health, I think there needs to be a boundary. That's just it. I'm not going to expect you to magically change and be somebody that you're showing me, like y'all said, that you're not. That's not realistic. I'm just going to set this boundary and I'm going to go on about my life. So, with that being said, no potentials. We're looking at patterns. So, wow, this time went by really fast, y'all. Brings us to the end of the episode. Remember that, as always, our goal is not to dictate conclusions, but to encourage self reflection and open, honest dialogue, right? Helping us to better understand the world around us, but more importantly, ourselves. Most importantly, ourselves. So, with that being said, we invite you to keep the conversation going in the comments, wherever they are, wherever. Like, share, subscribe, comment below. We love to hear your stories and your perspective and your ideas. And thank you for leaning in and going beyond the sum with us. Until next time, bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Spirit fingers. Spirit fingers.